listeners, just outside the 313, this is the Deployed from Detroit School of Leadership and Madness, a first-hand account of embracing the suck.
Hey everybody, I'm Steve and welcome to the Deployed from Detroit School of Leadership and Madness. Bit chipper for the title, huh? Why do I want to kill myself? Well, don't worry, I don't want to kill myself. But I've been in that spot before, and I've also done some cursory research into it. Like, I'm not an academic, I'm not... I ain't no PhD, but this is my personal experience, and I have a ton of it, so that is the benefit there. In the immediate case, if you are implement in hand and you think this is the way you're going, let's do some quick intervention by, let me show you here. This is the Veterans Crisis Line, but if you're not a veteran, there's also the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and you'll realize it's the same number. So either way, you're calling, you're getting some help here. 1-800-273-8255. Veterans press 1, and those people are, they have a special setup where they can get you hooked up to a VA provider, and that's why they have their special line. Now, if you think you can get through it without... intervention, if it's just kind of a nagging thought, and if you got time to hang out, let's hang out and talk about why you might want to kill yourself. And there is, believe it or not, some pretty rational reasons as to why. And I'm a firm believer in this fella named Abraham Maslow and his hierarchy of needs. So I'll show you on the big one here. This was first sort of put forth most coherently to the public in A Theory of Human Motivation by Abraham Maslow in 1943. The military has been a big fan of informing its troops of this thing just because it's real. It's when you see this in action, it is a little bit mind-blowing. And from the mental health perspective, this is crucial to understanding why it is you may be doing what you're up to. Now, what Maslow's hierarchy is trying to accomplish in general is ask, what would cause a human being to do a certain thing? Why would you do anything? And Maslow kind of figured out that there's really only 5 reasons to do just about anything, which is a little bit scary, a little bit somewhat disappointing if you're thinking of like grandness, but like there is beauty in how simple it is sometimes. And for us lunatics, for us mental health patients, for those of us who are mentally ill or not doing so hot, the fact that there's just 5 of these makes it kind of entry level, makes it something that we can rather quickly start to use to understand why we're feeling the way we're feeling. And a big thing that I've discovered it, and something that I kind of teach, is that the more you understand about what's hurting you, the less powerful it is, the less it actually hurts. And for mental health, it gives you the benefit of sometimes just outright ignoring it. And suicide is one of those things that you can develop the ability to just ignore. In my own experience as somebody with PTSD, where it's just a thing you kind of always have, I do kind of have a theory that, like, suicide is a persistent thing once it's in there. But I'll explain it as we go. But don't worry, this is something that you can handle, and look, it's color-coded. We got this, folks. We can handle this. So let's slide on over to physiological. This is your body's motivations for things. This is why when you're hungry, you turn into a monster, because all the priorities have shifted in your body to putting food into your tummy. And whether or not you know this, human beings grow, well, that's going to be a secret, separate episode. But your stomach has its own separate nervous system, which is kind of bananas, and it can put the brakes on your civility if it thinks that things are at risk. And then so can other sort of more primal components of your body. But a physiological need to kill oneself is likely because you're in the process of being killed, and it's better to just get it over with now. Now, in the mental health aspect of this, you're not going to have this as much. Or, I mean, unless you're in a very sort of enhanced, aggravated, expressed state. Something, I don't know. I don't have schizophrenia, and those guys are so beautiful to talk to, but sort of difficult to decipher at times, what they're going through. But this is mostly like, if you've seen Fury, this is the lieutenant who's on fire in the tank, and he just jumps out of the tank and immediately shoots himself because his options appear limited at that point. And so in this case, where you are right now, especially if you had time to search on YouTube for this, this isn't you just yet. Okay? Safety. The cabin is filling with water is an example I put in here. Holy smokes, the ship is going down. The environment is so dangerous, it's time to check out. So this is quite comparable to physiological, where you've been wounded so severely that you just decide to take extra morphine and check out. That's something, while thought out, something a relative of mine has done. And they sort of, and that was more of a physiological, but it was so well thought out that it's kind of hard to put on that scale. But a safety thing is where your environment is so dangerous that this is where a POW, prison camp kind of person, but this could also be someone who is now indoors with the rest of their crew, and somebody is a tyrant, somebody is violent, somebody is causing them to know that when they wake up in the morning, it's still going to suck, and it's still going to suck to a degree that, like, is immeasurable, is something you just can't endure anymore. And so when you perceive that you can no longer endure the environment, and that the environment is going to, like, your lasting in that environment is going to be longer than your ability to last. So, you've only got 100 hours of charge, but this is a 120-hour stretch, then this is where safety sort of suicides come in. And so you might see this with domestic violence kind of thoughts. And so if you have a shitty relative or roommate right now and you've been thinking about it, it could be because this is being triggered. And as we'll go through, we can sort of recognize the fact that these are ancient triggers that were put in us way before we were humans. These are things like way down the evolutionary line. These are ancient triggers. And so we can ignore them. We can thank them for their service and go, neat idea, bro. What the fuck? And move on. And that becomes the better internal argument with these voices as they come along. But this is, the safety needs is the environment is so dangerous that it cannot sustain life. And so, adios. Social is an interesting one, And social may come again. Social, in the way Maslow kind of puts it, is like group esteem and also love and interpersonal sort of connections and things like that. But as individual mammals, we don't do great against the weather. I come from a lot of northern people, and the only reason we survived is because I didn't come from a northern person. Because that fucker's dead. So let's move on to esteem. This is where vain people might kill themselves, or narcissists, or people with bipolar in a sort of heavy but maybe aggressive manic state. Kind of like, fuck you, show the world, wah! And then, but that's a very intense state of that. You know, most bipolar folks don't go that fucking off the rails. They'll have an episode or two for sure, but like, it's not a persistent behavior. A lot of times though, it's the individual in this phase of your development and your motivation. It's your ability, you know, so your body is safe, your environment is safe, you're part of a team now, you're part of a family, and now you're trying to figure out who you are in that family, and you're sort of developing your self-esteem as a member of that tribe, as a member of that species, as a member of whatever the hell it requires for you to like check the social box. Moves you on to the esteem box. And so as an esteem suicide is one of the, now this is where you might get socially pressured in those sort of, like we're talking in the Japanese society in World War II, people were pressured into suicide. People who weren't into this sort of more aggressive way of doing things, and they were forced to, because like, either you do it or we do it. And they're like, well, all right. Now the people who actually believe these sort of processes and have these honor suicides, it's an esteem thing, because they think their personal, what, you know, honor or whatever kind of bullshit they're coming up with. But it is a juvenile kind of thing too, because esteem's usually, it can be developed by the time you're in your teens. So, sorry, bots. So self-actualization is beyond. This is when you understand who you are as a person. You say, this is, I am so and so, and it means this, and it feels this way, and whatever, and it allows, it gives you the freedom to use your life a little bit more. I don't know, with risk, and this is where. You know, it's better than me. My death will save someone's life. It'll alleviate suffering. It will. This is where the Medal of Honor, a lot of Medal of Honor deaths are, in all reality, is sort of self-actualized suicide. The person knows what's going to happen to them, or has a good idea, doesn't have a positive end for them. But they know that it's better off that they do this, you know, than not do this. So if you're at risk, what's happening right now, very likely, is that your environment is not great. Your social setting, you feel like you're alone, isolated, being banished, at risk of being banished, might as well be banished. Or you're a bit of a shit and you're trying to show somebody, and you know, she broke up with me, so I'll show her. Yeah, that really shows her. Fucking idiot. Sorry, but they need that talk. Kindness isn't always pleasant. Here's where this is where we sit tonight. If you're watching this tonight and you're saying, holy moly, I'm thinking about it, how does mental health play into this? Now, when you have a normal situation, we talked about the physiological. Holy smokes, I'm on fire. Pew. Holy smokes, my boat's on fire. Pew. That's safety. Still, you don't have to do it. Social, holy smokes, the village is going to set me on fire. Pew. And then esteem is like, I'm going out in a blaze of glory kind of thing. And then self-actualization, we talked about there. Safety. So if tonight you're not feeling good, and now here's where we can start to intervene. So we know when this thought is going to be put into place is when something says these things are at risk. And so, like I was saying, very likely either you think your environment is too risky, and so that's a perpetual sort of thought there. Either you think your social setting is too risky, or you think, I don't know, something about yourself needs to be demonstrated. That safety one, you can check that. That's going to be likely anxiety more than depression. Anxiety is all your nerves firing, and anxiety usually says the world is the problem. Whereas if we move into social and esteem, that's more likely going to be a depression scenario, where depression says, I'm the problem. Anxiety is an ancient trigger where you were just chilling, you were having a great time, and then something happened to your body. Could be a traumatic experience, either encountered, witnessed, whatever. But something led your body to say, you're not in charge of the senses anymore. We get to know everything now. And so you perceive information a little bit brighter, and so you're always kind of mostly because the music's always just a little bit louder for you. And so if your environment is safe, but you're nagging sort of like, oh, I got to get out of here, it's not safe, the walls, like claustrophobia, fear, those kind of things, that's a safety kind of thing. Because who gives a shit that the walls are 4 feet apart? They're still going to be 4 feet apart 20 minutes from now. Like, they're not getting closer. Like, and these are the things you have to start to kick yourself out of, So recognize if you're in this safety mode, if you're an anxious type of person, and, you're not being beaten to death every night, and it doesn't have to be beaten to death. Like, it could be somebody, like, every night just going, hey, I'm going to kill you tomorrow. Like, that's enough where you're like, fuck this, I'm out. That's torture. That's insane. Like, so that could be a real reason to perceive this. But if you are just home alone, you're pretty much safe as can be. And so now you're recognizing, oh, this is just a bullshit cognition. I'm overreading some kind of senses. Maybe it's too windy. Maybe I'll put on a sweater and a blanket and I'll feel a little bit better. And, I just need to, whatever your trick is for dealing with anxiety. But that could be where this sort of safety hitch is coming from. I remember it feeling pleasant, the idea. It felt at times like it would be a relief of some sort. I mean, chemically, there would be no real relief. You would just move from a state of feeling shitty to a state of non-feeling, which is not the same as relief. That's just non-existence. So it ain't the same. If you are in it right now and you're, holy moly, this is too much for me, call those numbers. Let me pop that screen up again here real quick. The Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. That's suicidepreventionlifeline.org. If you're on the internet, which you are, I'm guessing. And the Veterans Crisis Line is the same number, but you're going to press 1, and that is veteranscrisisline.net. So if you're crying and you're like, oh shit, I can't do it anymore, if you're at that kind of stage, give these people a call, talk to them, chew their ear off until you can get through. And so if you're dealing with suicidal ideation, which is the fancy talk for thinking about suicide, it's going to come from these. And so at a real basic minimum, go check out this book, or go check out a book about this book, or whatever, however you want to best ingest this. But understand ultimately that it's not you who wants to kill you. You don't want to kill yourself. Why do I want to kill myself? Why do I want to kill myself? Why do I hang myself or take pills or like what the? That's not 100% what's happening, but unfortunately we don't have a great way of articulating it. Is that you are enduring so much suffering, either environmentally, internally, or sort of cognitively, that this flag has been flown. And so it's been thrown into the options list. Because when you don't feel in control of a situation, you'll get a lot of sort of ancient options. Like, oh, I could just punch this guy. That's an ancient option. That's in there. It's trained. Even biting, scratching, sort of primal. If you ever watch nerds fight, it's like watching chimpanzees fight sometimes. It's fucking fascinating. If you watch untrained human beings fight, and then you watch like untrained and not even sort of like socialized into the idea of how to use their body in that way. They use their bodies the way monkeys do. They do the like two-hand and like it's ridiculous. This shit's in there. And so it's part of, it's like solitaire on your computer. That's what suicide is. If this is helpful to you, I'm glad. I'll be honest with you. I can only say so much. I can only show you so many pictures and slides and recount so many tales. Most of this has to be experienced. Most of this has to be something. These are pants you got to try on before you buy. There will be work, there will be effort, and you will continue to suffer until you are no longer suffering. And that's a point you will get to. And where suicide is lying to you, saying that will alleviate your suffering. It will end your suffering, but it will not alleviate your suffering. You will get no relief from the suicide. So it is lying to you when it says that. But it will end it, but dully, brutally, and ineffectively. We have so many better ways of getting around whatever situation you're in right now. And so if you're in a domestic abuse situation, there are so many clever ways to signal people, especially with the internet these days. Send some crazy coded messages to people. Send anonymous emails. Do whatever the hell you gotta do to get out of that situation. If you think, I can't do this anymore. One more day of this and there's a bullet in my fucking head. Then get out! But I think if you start to get a basic kind of understanding of these 5 motivations, these 5 kind of levels, go take the time and read the rest of it outside of the context of wanting to kill yourself. Outside of that kind of context. Go get the audiobook, go watch some YouTube videos, but understand where these sort of triggers, these motivations, these yearnings, these very complex sets of signaling mechanisms, where they all come from. The better you understand that, the stronger you'll become. Take care of yourself. Take care of your people. Take care of the people around you. You know that. Duh. If you have a favorite episode, or a favorite chunk of an episode, share it. Share it with whomever. We've got eyes on content here and there, but we could definitely use more. I know we could use some polish, but I think for the most part, the ones that don't suck are pretty goddamn good. And that's, couldn't ask for more, right?